Hi, welcome back to the channel. What I'm going to talk about today is, do we need big 1100cc bikes, thirsty bikes? That's what the topic's going to be on. Or are we being pushed to the smaller bikes, the 400s, 450s, 500s we can say, due to not just being them lighter, but for them better on fuel and costs. Money's not great nowadays, is it? If anybody's watched my channel, I've just been to Romania. I did about 1,000 kilometres, maybe a little bit more. I did the route I was supposed to be going, but I also was riding around sightseeing it while I was there, if you want to say that. I filled the Himalayan to the brim before I left home. Rode down to Orsova in Romania. It's quite a trek, like. And I know the next day I was going down the Serbia border. And a month previous, I'd been in the same place with my 500 Bullet with Sue on the back. And we nearly made a bit of a mistake. We got 3/4 of a tank of petrol when we got, when I was in Romania. And when we set off for the long ride, I didn't realise how far it was and how bleak it was. There's nothing. You get past the hotels at the beginning because it's a bit of a touristy place, and it just opens out to the river road and it heads right the way down to the Serbia border, where you're following the Serbia border. There's no petrol stations. I think there's only one village. We got so far and the fuel light come on, because there's no fuel gauge on the 500 Bullets, just a light. And I was thinking, crikey, I didn't really know how much further I got to go. So this one village, I went in to see if they got any fuel. No, there's no fuel here. Well, how far's the next fuel station? Maybe 60 plus kilometres. I thought, Christ. And the worst thing I could do, nobody wants to run out of fuel, do they? But if I run out of fuel with a wife on the back, she ain't going to be happy, is she? So we turned round and went back. And it's one of the reasons I went on the journey this time on my own with the Himalayan. So I'd filled this up. And I never worked out how many miles to the gallon this did. I know what my other bikes. Now, my Bullet, I'm going to do this in UK miles to the gallon and UK pound. Because if I do it in litres and lev and lay, it's going to get confusing. Talking in lev, nobody knows what lev is really, unless you live here. So it's going to be in pounds and UK miles to the gallon. Now, my Bullet, it does about 85 to the gallon all day, every day, that bike. Now, my Interceptor, when I first bought it, I was quite disappointed actually. I reckon I was barely getting 55, 60 to the gallon out of it. But it surged like a pig. It was horrible. It's all right once you got out in the open, but going through town, and it turned out to be a bit of a common problem actually. But I put a fuel module on that, which I've actually got one on my Bullet. Tuned in, sorted it out, it runs like a sewing machine now, silky smooth. Now me and Sue did a 2-up ride on the Interceptor and I got 80 plus miles to the gallon afterwards. So it's a huge increase. It's basically because you're not having to open the throttle so much, even accelerating and whatever. The revs is run low, it runs nice anyway. But believe it or not, I've never ever done it on the Himalayan. I've always just put fuel in it when it wants it. I filled this up here and I'm on my way down to Romania. And I was about 40 minutes away from Orsova, and it's a main road, but there's no motorways or nothing. It's just a normal road. And you have to go through quite a lot of villages to get down there and towns. And there was about, I don't know, I think it could have been 4 or 5 big ADV bikes come past me. Like this, put their hand up as they passed. Couple of them I know was big GS's, I assume 1250s. One was a Multistrada, I did see him. I think there was a Africa Twin in there as well. Anyway, they flew past me, you know, because I was riding, I ride the Himalayan like I do all the other bikes, about 100 kilometres an hour. And that's on sat-nav speed, not clock speed. This is about 5 kilometres fast than what your actual speed is doing. And it's comfy at that, and it's the speed of the lorries, to be honest. You know, the surprising how fast the lorries are nowadays. And that road down in Romania is a main route for the lorries, very busy, because it runs into Serbia. In actual fact, an empty lorry, 40-foot lorry, is as quick, if not quicker, on acceleration of what the Himalayan is. So I stick it about 100 kilometres. Anyway, gets to Orsover, pulls in the first big fuel station there, because I know I was on a big ride the day after. I thought, I'll do it now, then it's done. So when I go in the morning, because where I was going, there's no fuel stations at all. And as I was pulling in, one bike was still at the fuel pump, he was just getting back on it, and the others were sat at the entrance. So I assumed they'd all gone in, filled up with fuel and was just leaving. I thought, oh crikey, the speed they were going, they hadn't gained much really, had they? No, they'd gained enough time to all come in and fuel up and go again. So they hadn't gained much, but because there was a lot of villages and had to go through a town we did on the way down there. So I thought, well, you know, just keep at the steady speed of the Himalayans, pretty good really, I thought. Anyway, I filled it up, got the receipt in my pocket. Anyway, I made my way down to where I was staying, and I got nothing to do. And I thought, I'm going to work out how many miles to the gallon this bike does. I got 97 miles to the gallon out of the Himalayan. That was on the ride down to Romania, to Orsover. And I thought, Christ, that's good, that is. That is excellent. Anyway, I never thought the more of it really while I was there. But when I come home, I was thinking, I wonder how that compares to these guys on the GSs and Africa Twins and stuff like this. So I've had a look, and I've got the figures off Bike Social, off their reviews they've done on bikes. The GS 1250, they reckon they was getting an average of 47 to the gallon. The Transalp, the 1100, I think it's 1100, that got about 50. And I think the 750, they got about 54 out of that. The Multistrada, that come in at 45. The T7 Tenere, I think they got 50 out of that, which I suppose isn't bad really for what it is really. The Africa Twin 750, they got 54, 55 out of that. What I did then, I worked out, whenever I buy a bike, I write the mileage down, because I don't care if somebody tells me it's just had an oil and filter change. I take no notice of that, because anybody can say anything, can't they? So I always change the oil, new filter, as soon as I get a bike. Then I have a little piece of card in my cupboard. I put the bike, the mileage, when I bought it, and when it had its oil change, and when the next one's due. So I know the mileage of all the bikes I bought. And I checked all the mileage now, and in about 8 months, I've done 19,000 kilometres between the 3 bikes. I've done 10,000 on the Emir. The Interceptor, I've only done 2,000, but I haven't had it too long, but I've not used it, to be honest. My Bullet, I've done 6,000. Now, if I converted that, that comes at 12,000 mile in about 8 months. And really all that is YouTube, because obviously I'm more or less retired, I don't work. And this year it's been my first year doing YouTube, and you would not believe how much time it takes to run a channel. All the riding out, looking at things, filming, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so I've done 12,000 miles, and I reckon I put an average of 85 to the gallon on what I've done, which I think is about right. So that works out. I've used 142 gallon of petrol in about 8 months. Now, I know a lot of people, if you ride to work on a bike, it's not that many miles really, I suppose. Well, even some people travelling can do more than that, but that's what I've done. I looked on the internet in the UK, because I've lived in the UK for 12 years. I think a gallon of petrol works out about £6.57. So that is, I spent £932 in petrol. If you split it down, if it was a ride to work person on a bike, that ain't too much really. But for me, just we'll call YouTube pleasure riding, shall we? Over £900. No, it's quite a bit of money when you put it as a lump sum. I'm getting double the miles to the gallon of bikes that's like 750 and above, or most of them. Them bikes, their averages, I don't know what speed they've got their average miles to the gallon from. It's just what I got off Bike Social, this was. I know some like them lads come past me. I don't think they was getting 47 to the gallon the speed they flew past me like. But obviously I'm riding a lot steadier. So I think If you've got something like a GS 1250 Multistrada or Big Africa Twin or something, your fuel for the same mileage I've done is going to be double. You're going to be best part of £2,000. Just social riding, if you want to call it, never mind the ride to work people. It just sort of got me a bit. Are people coming down in CC bikes to, not everybody with the Himalayan, people, it could be age, it could be a lot of things, insurance wise, weight, but are people riding smaller bikes that still like touring because they're getting double the miles to the gallon? I don't know. It's a bit like cars. I've got an old Hyundai 4x4. It's 20-year-old now. I actually brought it over from the UK when we first come here 12 years ago. It's right-hand drive. There's no point in trying to sell it. It's worthless here because they're all left-hand drive, obviously. Now, Sue's got a very nice car, big 4x4, sporty engine thing, all leather interior, really, really nice car. But the value of my Hyundai against the value of her car, we could buy 10, 15 of my Hyundais for one of her car. They're like chalk and cheese to drive. Mine's a diesel. And it's a bit like this. You know, if I want to overtake a lorry in it, I have to make sure I've got good sight of plenty of room to pass it. You know, Susie, you can just put your foot down and gone. Now, if we go out dressed up, we always take Sue's car because it's nice. You know, if we're going to pick up a couple of bags of chicken food, or she wants a load of plants from the village market or something, we always take mine. You know, horses for courses, really, isn't it? So I can understand why people like the big bikes. In actual fact, I can remember, it's not so long ago, it was on a forum, and it was about, the part I was reading was actually about the 411 Himalayan. That's why I was looking on it. People just going how good it was and blah, 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 blah. And this woman come on and she put a comment on saying her husband, they got a GS 1250 and they ride two up, all the luggage and boxes and stuff like this. She was on about the Himalayan's not for them, it's no good. She says if we're going down a motorway in France or wherever and we're doing 85, 90 mile an hour, fully loaded, two up because we've got a ferry to catch, Himalayan's no good to us, is it? There's answers to that really, isn't there? You know, leave earlier. What else I've looked at was then the 450 range. 450, 500s, you know, your under 500s, the CF motos. I thought, well, they're all good on fuel consumption. So I had a bit of a look. Well, one of the things was I did quite fancy not long ago. I like that look of that Motor Marini X-Cape. It's a 650. It's not what you call high performance. But what put me off it, it only did 45 to the gallon. I thought, Christ, that's bad miles to the gallon. Obviously, it's not a very high horsepower engine in quite a heavy bike, 230 kilogram, I think. I thought, well, nah. Because the problem is now, I run my Enfields and I'm 80 odd miles to the gallon. No, I'm no millionaire, so everybody's got to watch their money, haven't they? You know, I can go a ride out on a Sunday for next to nothing. That's how I look at it. No, 100 miles, 1 gallon and a bit of fuel. It's nothing, is it? It's nothing at all, really. Especially as I do quite a lot of long journeys at 45 miles to the gallon, I'd soon start to notice that. The 452 Hemi, the new one, I think that does about 80 plus. I don't really know. I've not done any touring or nothing. Only what I've read. Or if you speak to people, they're never going to tell you their own bike's crap, is it? It's rubbish. It drinks petrol like it's gone out of fashion. It's only what I've ridden. Now the CF Moto 450, I thought that would be mint on fuel, that. But I watched Nathan, the postman, and he's a big fan of that bike. He absolutely loves it. It's like the golden goose for him, that is. But he said it's not as good as the 452, and I think they did a bit of a comparison. He didn't say how many miles to the gallon they was getting, but he said it ain't as good. So Bike Social, I thought myself, I looked on what CF Moto said, and they said 70 miles to the gallon. Now Bike Social, they did quite a long review on it, riding off-road, on road. They had it for a while, and they worked it out at 51 miles to the gallon, and that was with we'll call him a skilled rider that could ride off road with it. So he's given it a bit of stick like and road work and whatever. 51 miles to the gallon out of a 450. It's pretty crap. I would say if I was riding it the way I ride like my Enfields, I'll be getting 70 plus. Well, I'd hope I would anyway. But I know Nathan said that it wasn't that good on fuel. That was the only downside he come across on it. Really, the video's about, are we downsizing just for weight, insurance purposes, people want to take the time a little bit, the big bikes are getting too heavy for us, or is fuel consumption and costs playing a big part in it now? Because I often wonder, you know, I've ridden big bikes all my life, anything from Harleys, choppers, sports bikes, sports tourers had those as well. Now all my bikes had to be 1000cc plus. It's just that, you know, we've all been like that. Now I got to the age, things are too heavy for me, and you get a bit of a different perspective of riding around when you're riding on something small, especially where I am. You know, the beauty of the scenery. I never knew about it really until I did start to slow down, and you're travelling down a bit of a road that you've travelled down 100 times. All of a sudden you start seeing things on that same road you've never ever noticed before. And I like that now, so that these size bikes suit me. Like my Interceptor will probably now be the biggest bike I have now, well, you know, the rest of my riding days. But it just made me wonder, you know, I think some people's just going to be like I was with this when I bought it. When it wants fuel, you fill it up. Don't give a monkeys about it. You know, obviously money's tight nowadays, and I think people are watching what they spend. In actual fact, I can remember I'd been married, got divorced fairly quickly, want my cup of tea at all that. I lived on my own, had my own house and had whatever bikes I wanted. And I had a GSX-R 11, had a big 1260 big bore kit in it, big cams, 38mm carbs. It was a right beast of thing. And I had a load of mates that had all that sort of similar bikes. We didn't go out riding at the weekends because the roads were too busy. But we used to go out at night, 9 o'clock onwards, and ride hundreds of miles. I noticed how much money I was spending then on fuel, because them bikes, you know, the speeds we was riding, I don't know, I bet you was doing 25 to the gallon. You know, I'm not saying how fast we was going, but it was fast. Racetrack speeds in them days it was. And how much of, I lived on it on my own, I got a mortgage, and every month I was skinned, because most of the time I paid my bills, the rest of my money was going in the tank of the bike, eating tyres, change sprockets. It's unbelievable on a big bike. Well, a lot of you know, don't you, the running costs. You know, I'm still here to tell the tale, so that's a good thing. I think myself, small bikes is the way to go. Pluck, I'm sounding like Nathan now, the postman, aren't I? But it's one of the reasons I like, and one of the reasons I like Royal Enfield. The guys with the big bikes, I can see why you like them. You know, I stand and I pull up on the Himalayan and I look at a nice GS 1250 or Multistrada and I think, yeah, I'd like that. I can't see why to have one and ride around at the speeds I do on these. It's like when my Hyundai car, it's a doddle to stick at the speed limits on it, easy. Speed limits here is 90 kilometres an hour. And nowadays where the EU's funded Bulgaria for speed cameras, more police cars, because Bulgaria's got the highest death rate on the roads in Europe, or one of them anyway. So you've got to be careful. When I'm in Sue's car, I just cannot keep to the speed limit. You know, I'm riding around at ridiculous speeds in it, driving, not riding. Shows how much driving I do, innit? Driving around in her car like a, you know, stupid speed, because it's just so boring trying to keep it 90 kilometres an hour with it. These, it's easy. If I had a big bike, I'd be struggling to do it. I've been fancying ADV Tourer, a big one, because I like doing the miles. The wind protection on this is crap, and it wears me down in there, and I want something with bigger screen, better wind and all this, more comfort. This isn't bad, but it's comfy for what it is, but it ain't comfy for a big bike. But Sue can't get on a ADV bike and off very well. Well, she can get on but can't get off. And I'm more interested in taking her with me nowadays than I often am riding on my own, especially when you're going into different countries, which is easy from where I live. But I know what would happen. It's just the speed. So that's why I'm sticking on the smaller bikes. Leave it in the comments what you reckon about this. Do you think people are coming down in size due to miles to the gallon besides the weight? It's quite enjoyable. I know there's going to be the guys who say, no, a big bike, it only goes as fast as you make it. But put it this way, I can't remember the last time I was on a Royal Enfield I passed somebody on a GS 1250, believe me. Anyway, a little bit something for you to think about. I hope you enjoyed this. Big thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel. Helps me keep the channel going. I'm always on about it. Subscribing is free, doesn't cost you a penny, but it does help me out. And I hope to see you in the next video. Cheers.